Morning guys, hope everyone's good. I'm going to do a potato style dumpling. I've got some Korean sweet potato there. I'll put this in the fridge overnight. If you're making the dumplings, this is essentially the same recipe for a gnocchi as well. So a sweet potato gnocchi. If you're doing this overnight, it's going to give you a much better potato to work with basically. Yeah? Now a general rule when we're making a gnocchi is always going to be about a kilo of potato to about 200 grams of flour, okay? So that potato I've got now weighs 350 grams. So that's about 75 grams of coconut flour. I'm then gonna mash that down very gently with a fork, okay? So I'm just gonna mash it down very gently. Don't go too crazy at it because we don't wanna work too much of the sugars in the potato. Right, and to this, I'm gonna start with 60 grams of coconut flour. I always keep a little bit back because you never know whether you're gonna need more or less. Now, because this is going to be a Jamaican style, I'm going to add a little black pepper in this one, okay? A very essential ingredient in Jamaican cooking, all right? A little bit of salt. And then we're going to start to build the dough gently, okay? We can roll it around a little bit till it starts coming together. So you can see that there, where it's starting to come together, okay? I'm going to take just a touch of regular flour, okay? This is just for the rolling, all right? Then I'm going to bring it to the bench. Yes, your bench is going to get a bit messy, but you'll be all right, yeah? I believe in you guys. And all we're going to do is we're going to just start very gently cutting this in, all right? Just like so. And then what I'll do is just start to bring it together a little bit, all right? And we're going to cut it again. So you're probably thinking, well, that's a bit weird, gnocchi with coconut flour, but it makes sense because we're doing a nice jerk style chicken, yeah? But I want to add something to that dish. It's going to make sense to go with the chicken, yeah? Now we get to that sort of consistency where you can see it starting to come together. I'm just going to start to bring it together with my hands a little bit, okay? It's looking pretty good. At this stage, I'm not going to mix it too much, okay? I just want to bring it together with my hands to see where we're at. Feel the texture. I can see the seasoning running through it. Then I'm going to give it a very quick knead. Because I'm using coconut flour, I'm going to work it just a touch more. There's not going to be any gluten in the coconut flour. And I need to make sure the dough is slightly wet for when I'm rolling, okay? And when I start to feel it coming together in the hand and warm, that's when I know it's going to be ready for the rolling, okay? So we're going to take a touch of flour, just down on the workbench, touch of flour across the top, and then we're going to start to roll, okay? Not too much flour, take some away if you think you got a bit too much, and I'm going to just roll him out, okay? I'm going to go about the size of a 5p piece. If you don't want to know what that is, that's a dime, okay? And this sort of gnocchi is good for anything. You can put it in the freezer, cook it straight from frozen. I like to poach mine in a little bit of water first and then refresh it. It gives you a lighter dumpling. Okay, now we come to cutting, all right? So when we cut the dumplings, I have my finger and my thumb there, and I just cut like that. It's gonna help just give us a nice gnocchi shape, okay? And then we just repeat the process with the rest of the dough, okay? We've got to make sure we feel how the dough's feeling, okay? And that goes for any gnocchi. I'm using coconut flour, so coconut flour is going to act a lot more differently to regular flour, okay? So when we're using regular flour, it's important that we don't knead it too much. Whereas when we're using coconut flour, we need to knead it a little bit. It doesn't contain that level of gluten that we're used to, okay? It takes a little practice, but the key thing is to get that cylinder shape when you first start, okay? Just keep rolling it out. You can apply a bit of pressure, don't worry, when you're rolling this part out. That's what it's going to need. And if you feel like it's getting a bit long, just lose half like that, okay? Okay, that's the coconut gnocchi. We got that to that stage. The next stage now is to poach it. And I'm going to show you how to cook that after we've poached it, all right? All this might seem like, oh, you know, it's a lot of hard work. It's not. Your first stage is just to roast that potato. Once you get that potato out of the way, this process is pretty quick. Just enjoy it. Have fun with it, guys, okay? Let's get cooking our gnocchi, guys, all right? So, anytime we cook pasta, the water should taste like the sea, okay? This is going to help us to season whatever we're cooking, all right? Okay, so when we're cooking, it's important to be organised and ready. We've got a tray for the gnocchi. I've got a spoon to get him out of there. I'm going to add just a touch of olive oil to the tray. You can make this beforehand and poach it and then leave it in the fridge. If you roll it in the oil, let it cool down, then pop it in the fridge. It's going to keep beautifully, all right? So if you're having a dinner party or something like that, this is a good one to get ready. Quite a crowd pleaser, I would say. And then when your dinner party's happening, all you got to do is fry them off. Now we just wait for the water to boil and we can get poaching. Okay, guys. The water's now boiling. We're ready to poach. This is a very crucial time. This is what's gonna make or break our nice gnocchi, yeah? So what's gonna happen is we're gonna poach them in the liquid. When they're ready, they're gonna rise to the surface. At that point is when we need to get them out of the water. If you go for longer, they will disintegrate because they'll get too wet inside and implode, if you like, okay? So I've got my gnocchi here, piece by piece, okay? Just be gentle with this bit, don't throw it from too high because you're going to splash yourself with boiling water and we don't want anyone getting burnt. I'm going to probably do 2 batches. I don't want to overcrowd the pan too much. It's very important when we're working that it's comfortable as well. It's always things to think about as you're going through these processes. Is it comfortable? Am I going to be crossing over trying to get the gnocchi in the pan, or is it going to be nice and easy for me to go from here to here, which is what I've got, it's easy, yeah? Okay, and we're just going to wait for these to start floating up to the surface. It shouldn't take too long. They'll start to come up and then sink a little bit. So what's important is if they sink down again, we wait till they all start to pop up to the surface, okay? Any ones we have coming up and sit for a while, just get them out, okay? Don't wait for everything to come up to the surface. If we have ones that are coming up straight away, start to get them out, because what will happen is as you're going, more will come up to the surface. So what we don't want to do is get to the point where they're all up to the surface, but we're not ready to get them out of the water, okay? Then what I'm going to do is I'm going to let these steam out for a second, okay? They look rough, but that's the texture I'm looking for. I've got a nice shaped gnocchi. It's cooked nicely. It feels nice and light, which is important. I'm going to let them steam off and then I'm going to coat them in a little more oil and seasoning, okay? Now, I've got some oil in this pan left from the chicken. I'm not going to waste anything at the moment. I want flavour and everything, okay? This is free flavour, so that's going to go in there for my gnocchi, all right? The gnocchi will need to cook fairly quickly, and it's important that we've got a towel ready to put back onto the tray so we catch any grease. The last thing we want down on the plate is the grease from any dishes that we make, okay? So a little butter into the pan, or a decent amount of butter, don't be shy. We're going to get that foaming up nice. Remember, we got the fat from the chicken in there, so that's going to give us a nice bit of added flavour to the gnocchi, okay? So very gently, I'm going to start lifting everything in. We're going to add this just to our tray, just to catch the grease after we finish cooking. Right, now, we need a little salt and pepper. We're going to let that butter start to foam up. Once the butter starts to foam up, that's when we're going to start to get the colour, okay? At this point, we've got to be quite quick with the gnocchi because we don't want it to overcook either. Gnocchi's crisping out. I can hear it. Remember, use your senses. I can hear the gnocchi getting nice and crisp. So I'm going to leave him. I'm not going to muck around with him too much now. I've got the flame on pretty high, guys, if you look, okay? So we're letting all this gnocchi crisp up nicely. All right, guys, so my gnocchi's getting coloured up nicely. It's drinking a lot of the fat, so we're just going to add a touch of olive oil into the pan. A, to finish it, and B, just to help it on its way to finish cooking. I'm going to take the spoon and flip the rest of them over. Just take your time with this bit because we're taking the time to make the gnocchi, so we don't want to break it up too much, okay? It will be quite soft to work with, but just be gentle. We've got a nice golden colour, looking nice and crispy. I'm going to just turn the heat down on that gnocchi now, let him finish nice and chilled out in the pan. And they look a bit rough, they don't look so great, like they don't look aesthetically pleasing, but it's all about the flavour and how light they are, okay? So because we're using the coconut flour, it's going to be a bit more difficult for them to stay together, yeah? So we're just going to scatter a few of these around the plate.